Awesome, so let's go ahead and get started. How's everybody feeling? Good, yes, we'll take a breath. It's been a long couple of days, lots of energy, lots of information, probably the most socializing most of us have done for a very long time. So I really appreciate you all coming here today, being here for this workshop, and looking forward to getting started. So today we're going to be exploring some of the ideas and concepts from the 2022 Legal Trends Report, but we're going to be doing that in the form of an interactive workshop. Now, this session is going to be a really great opportunity for all of you to hear from each other about the challenges that you're facing in your practices and to help you develop kind of some creative crowdsourced solutions that you can take away from that to help you build a better, more well-rounded, well-balanced practice that helps meet your needs and the needs of your clients. So my name is Rio Peterson. I'm also sometimes known as Rio from Clio, and I am the Senior Partnerships Manager at Clio. So for the last 4 years, I've gotten to work with bar association partners across North America to educate their members on using data insights to make informed decisions about their practices so that they can enjoy profitable, thriving law firms. Now, joining me today, I have a number of fantastic facilitators. Can you guys all put your hands up? Stand up. Okay, in the back, we have a wonderful crew. We have Jessica, we have Ryan, we have our Joshua Lennon, Nicole, and Shane. So they are going to be helping us through the workshop portion of this session. All right, so what are we going to cover today? Well, a few things. The first, I'm going to talk to you about what you can expect from this workshop and what you can hope to get out of it or plan to get out of it. And then we're going to talk about balance and what we learned from this year's Legal Trends Report in terms of balance. And then we're going to go ahead and get interactive, and we'll break out into smaller groups, and we're going to come together to do kind of a workshop to talk about, some of the solutions problems and pain points we've been experiencing, and hopefully find some solutions for us. Then we're going to bring it back together. And if anyone wants to, we can talk about kind of the things that you discovered during that workshop. And then if there's time, we will have time for a Q&A at the end. Okay, so to kick things off, I'm actually going to take off my jacket because it's quite warm in here. So we'll start there. But I'm going to spend a few minutes sharing a few key insights from this year's Legal Trends Report about balance and how lawyers are really struggling to achieve it. Now, next, we're going to hear from you. So we're going to talk about strategies that can help you to find balance in your own practice, career, and life. And after that, we're going to take 25 minutes for our activity. We're at 25 minutes about. And we'll split you off into groups where you'll talk about things that are getting in the way and explore some of the potential solutions that are available to help you really push past those roadblocks. The intention behind this exercise is to help you connect with other professionals and to crowdsource, to share ideas, and to find solutions to the challenges you're facing. And then again, as I mentioned, we'll bring it back together and talk about our findings and what we've learned. Okay, so let's get started with talking about balance and understanding balance. Now, finding balance is the core theme of this year's Legal Trends Report. But what do I mean when I say balance? Like, do I mean trying to balance? I'm happy I didn't fall. That was great success. But the definition, the way that I want to talk about it today is in terms of, things like billable work, non-billable work, things like working from home versus working in the office, in person versus virtual, and then there's work versus overall personal life. And the thing is that balance for a law firm and for lawyers is really dependent upon your practice. So law firms are a little bit like snowflakes. They're unique, they're all different, and that's why balance can look different from one firm to another, and from one person to another. So let's start with kind of that last sort of balance that I talked about, the balance between work and personal life. Now, one of the things that we learned from the 2022 LTR, and something that really stood out to me, is that in the last year, 20% of lawyers left their job. And 37% of them did so because they felt they needed a better work-life balance. Now, lawyers tend to feel this sense of responsibility to be there for their clients. And often those clients are facing very difficult, emotional, and challenging life situations. And that can really make pursuing a work-life balance for lawyers very challenging. And it can often make it feel like it is a selfish act. But the question then becomes, if you're burning the candle at both ends and pushing yourself to try to meet the needs of everyone else, are you actually able to meet their needs? If you're not meeting your own needs, are you able to meet theirs? Your ability to be there for clients will be negatively impacted if you don't take time to recharge. If you take on too much for too long without taking a break and taking time to meet your own mental health needs, your emotional well-being can suffer from that, and you'll run the risk of burnout. Now, to quote Arianna Huffington, self-care is not selfish. So let's take a quick scan of the room. Love doing polls, and it's been so long since we've been in person. I just love getting to see everyone's hands go up. So show of hands, who feels like you work more hours than you should? Or maybe more hours than your family wants you? I see someone really having to put their hand up there. Okay, so some of you, wonderful. Now, if you had your hand up, and I know a lot of you did, you're not alone. And I'm sure these numbers on the chart here are maybe a little bit surprising, but lawyers put a lot of time into their practice. So much so that 86% work irregular hours and 56% work more than 40 hours per week. Now, not only are you working kind of this grind during the week, but look how much you're working on the weekends too. I mean, 40% of lawyers are working on Saturday, 32% are working on Sundays. But let's say that you're working long hours, okay? Does that mean that you're making up for it by taking vacation? So another show of hands, who feels like they take enough time off? Or like they take enough vacation? Yeah, some of you, okay, but not a lot of you. All right, so that's not surprising, because one of the other things we learned in this year's LTR is that lawyers are working more than ever. Who has time to take a vacation when you're working so many hours a week? So I think it's pretty clear that you're all a very busy bunch of people. And so the question then is, where is all that extra time going? Where is all that work you're doing? What are you spending your time on? Well, there's a number of things that pull your attention away from your billable work and the work that you're actually going to be getting paid for. Things like client intake, general administration, client communications, generating bills, chasing down late payments, all those types of things take a lot of time. Now, for context, a lot of time is eaten up by non-billable work, like I just mentioned, but it's kind of a combination of things that are specifically eating up that time. So 48% of non-billable time, or non-billable time goes to non-billable tasks. Sorry, my notes just say that. I'm like, yeah, that's redundant, it's true. But 48% of time goes to non-billable tasks, and 33% goes to business development. So that's things like building your website, trying to bring in new clients, all of those things that are so necessary to running your law firm, but are not things that you can ultimately pass on the cost to your client for. There we go. So let's talk a little bit about the client journey. Who here has heard of the client journey? Yeah, oh, I love that. Because the last time I asked that question pre-COVID, maybe 2 people raised their hands. So that is fantastic. I love it. So let's look at the client journey and kind of talk about where your time specifically on this journey is being eaten up. Now, here's a typical client journey, and this represents all of the steps that your client will go through before they reach out to your law firm, all the way to after their case has wrapped up. Now, let's say a prospect becomes your client, okay? You work on their case, you bill them, and hopefully you retain them and get a really awesome referral, like a 5-star review on Google My Business. And that sounds really easy. Well, I don't think it does. It sounds very hard, actually. But we know that there are definitely some bottlenecks there. So here's a really great tool to help you figure out and identify your own pain points or what your own pain points are and where they are, and to see if those are also pain points for your clients. Now, if your marketing is on point and you have leads coming in, great, that's fantastic. But actually converting those leads to clients and onboarding them can then take a lot of time, especially if your process is manual. So the same can be said for billing, right? Creating invoices, sending them out, collecting on payments, following up, it's all very time consuming. Now, in between intake and billing, you have your casework, but you also have the overhead of communicating with your clients, and not only communicating with them, but finding the right cadence to do so. When, how, for how long. Now, imagine though, if rather than spending 30 minutes on client intake, you only spent 10 minutes on it because you have some kind of automated system in place. You're then freeing up time for yourself to be able to have 20 minutes to communicate with your client, to kind of pick up those pieces that are maybe falling. And so identifying those pain points along that client journey is the first step to really helping to make changes in your law firm that will contribute to a better balance and better emotional and mental well-being, and ultimately a better client experience for your clients. And so that is what we're going to solve today, is how do we identify those pain points, and then what do we do about them? So, any questions before we continue? Oh, okay, great. So I covered everything and you're all here with me. Wonderful, love that, love that. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna divide up the room into groups. And because there's a lot of you, and I'm so happy there is, we weren't expecting this many folks, so this is a great day for me. We're gonna let you guys divide yourselves into groups. So like 4 folks, if you all wanna, if everyone at the same table wants to be together, or however you wanna do that. But ideally what we're gonna be doing is focusing on one of 4 different problem areas. So within your group, you can decide which problem area you wanna work on. And we're gonna be looking at client intake, client communications, general administration, and billing. So these are kind of, as I mentioned earlier, the 4 areas that really can take up a lot of time and have a lot of pain points. And so what we do have is we've got our fantastic facilitators at the back there, and they're gonna be helping us throughout this exercise. So I'm gonna give you guys all a minute to shuffle into groups, and then we can get started. Okay, everybody. Can I have everyone's attention, please? I know you're all busy sharing ideas, talking about your experiments. I think we're gonna take a moment here and we're gonna come back together as a group, and we're going to share our ideas and talk about what we've learned from each other. So what I wanna do next is kind of encourage groups to maybe share if you had kind of like an aha moment, if you learned something new, if you wanna talk about basically what you've been talking about. We have facilitators around with mics who are gonna come over. So if there's any group that wants to share, raise your hand, please. I'd love to hear from you, and I'm sure everyone else in the room would like to hear from you too. Any volunteers? Who's gonna do it? Who's gonna be the first?
I will take us back to law school and call on someone.
Don't make Joshua do it. He'll do it. He'll call on somebody. Okay, any volunteers? Hey, yes, right over here.
Coming over.
Yeah, and if you want to start off by telling us your name, where you're from, it's kind of like the first day of school, get to know each other.
Into the mic, please.
All right, so my name is Brad Bodis. I'm with Bond and Bodis Law Offices. We're in Alabama and Mississippi.
Nice.
And through COVID, most of our offices have gone at least 90% virtual. My partner, who I'm talking to here, works in one of our offices that has not made the advance as quickly as some of the other offices to virtual consultations and virtual interactions with clients.
Right.
And we're talking about the barriers to doing that and why, in my mind, it's beneficial to both our firm and to our clients. We have a bankruptcy practice, and clients need to provide documentation to us, data to us, and most of it we can do virtually, and it's easier for the client and easier for us. So we're going to try moving that office to more of a virtual platform, and we're going to do that as an experiment initially, and we're going to pick a date to do it when we get back.
Wonderful.
So that's our goal.
Wonderful. So did you talk about kind of how you would discuss that change with clients?
We did. We talked about how we would approach it with clients, and more importantly right now, how our staff will need to be revamped, retrained in order to approach things virtually.
Yes, and that is such a key point too, is making sure that everybody is on board with the change, that they have all the resources and tools they need to be comfortable with it and to make it a success.
And it's almost like going into a new area of practice, because initially it seems overwhelming. Mm-hmm. But I think once we get into it, based on our experience in our other locations, it will make things a lot easier for everybody.
Right, absolutely. And ultimately a change, something different can always seem like a big thing, right? But I think once you start doing it and you start just a little bit at a time, then you get into it and you're like, oh, yeah, okay, actually this really works for us. Yeah.
So that is our experiment. That's what we're going to do.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. Is there anybody else who would like to share? You guys were all talking. Yes, right here in the front. Wonderful.
Hi, my name is Mickey Wong. I am from Yang Law Offices. We do family law, some IP and civil. So one of our big headaches is our intake process, and we've been trying to figure out how to make it better. And one of the key things is we know our conversion rate is at like 20%, and then Brian over here said that his was really bad at 45%. So we dug in a little bit. I figured out his process, and so we want to implement some of the things that they've been doing, and we've been having our receptionist ask some very general questions, and what he shared is that he actually has his intake just listen instead of asking questions. So
interesting.
Yeah, I think that's going to be pretty major.
And she taught me that a solution perhaps for one of our hard points, which is that clients will book a consultation but then cancel or not show up, and she says, well, they pay when they're booking, and then they just don't cancel because they get paid already. So we don't get them to pay until the day before or the day of the consultation. So they don't have any money in it until that moment. So we're going to implement it. So we're learning from each other.
Right. And that's a great example, too, of just a small shift in process, right? And that can have a major impact and make it so much more streamlined and easy to work with. So that's fantastic. Love that you guys are sharing ideas. So is there anybody else who'd like to share? Talk about their experiments, their ideas. We've had these wonderful folks share here, and I know all of you guys in the back were talking up a storm, so I know you've got lots to say. Is there anyone who'd like to volunteer? Hey, right here in the front. Wonderful. Thank you, Jessica.
Good afternoon. Rich Sierra with the Florida Small Business Legal Center out of Boca Raton, Florida. We talked here about a couple of things. Email management, or I guess the email nightmare more. I think it's really more appropriate. And how to, in my case, the synchronization of the emails into the case management system so they can be billed in bulk. If you have an active practice, you probably get hundreds of emails per day, and it is very difficult or time-consuming to one at a time be billing them and synchronizing them. So we talked about that. We so far have not come up with a solution, so we moved to another problem. We talked about client expectations, mostly in the PI and the business litigation side, and how to really explain to the client the expectations of what goes on behind the scenes and the costs associated with it, and giving them realistic expectations as to the cost of litigation. And we talked about, for example, a client says, I have 10 witnesses that will testify in my case. And I said, great, let's talk about that. So in an average depo, 4 hours, you depo transcript $1,000. So your 10 witnesses, just without attorney's fees and preparation time, will cost $10,000. We're not even having started with the case. So it's a matter of giving that expectation, and a solution that Jared brought up is like bringing that up front, but also taking a larger retainer up front, but also discussing that to find out if the client has the wherewithal to be able to support the case. Mm-hmm. And if the client is kind of hesitant about going forward, then it's better stopping it at that point as opposed to moving forward and then find out midstream in the case, I just cannot go forward because I ran out of money, which makes the client happy and then always will blame the attorney. So I think by having those conversations early on will save those problems. So that's one of the things we talked about.
Right. And so in terms of setting expectations up front, are you picturing that in the form of a conversation? Would there be like an accompanying kind of something in writing as well that they can refer back to? How are you seeing that happening?
There's both.
Yeah.
In what I do in my firm, I develop a litigation budget worksheet, which kind of outlines, if not for all the cases, but cases that are more complex and that there going to be some activity there. So I create a litigation budget worksheet that explains each aspect of the case, the cost based on what we know at the time, number of witnesses, what I call the litigation matrix, that you have the number of parties times number of claims, that equals the number of potential claims that we have in the lawsuit, the potential counterclaims, potential motions that most likely will happen, the duration of the case, whether it's 12 months or 18 months. If we go to trial, how much time of preparation time, how many attorneys, how many paralegals. It's kind of breaking down. If you're going to build a house, you probably have, most likely you'll have kind of a breakdown of what it's going to cost to build that house. And I kind of, when I was having surgery for my hip, my wife maybe watched HGTV, so I kind of got hooked on that. So I'm like, okay, you know what? This is a great idea. They don't start anything until they give you a breakdown and sign a contract. So why would we start this business having the clients jump into a $100,000 expense without knowing that up front? Mm-hmm. So I kind of developed that litigation budget worksheet, which is still kind of in progress, but it has helped. I've kind of tested it with some clients, and some clients gave me large retainers. Some clients have decided, I'm going to settle in this now. Mm-hmm. Settle it. So it kind of, I'd rather have that conversation at the beginning rather than at the end.
Got it. Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I really love the example of kind of borrowing from other industries, other TV shows, kind of borrowing those ideas and applying them to your own practice. That's wonderful. Thank you. Do you have an online question?
I have a comment.
Comment. Great.
One, I love the budget worksheet. We're actually starting to see that in family law firms as well, where they offer it as an a la carte menu, right? So do you want to fight over the dog? That'll be an extra $1,000. Check here. And they do that in advance. And so that way, when the conversation then becomes, I want that darn dog, you can break out the worksheet again. But if you're looking for a tool that does that for you, within Clio's app directory, Digitory Legal is a very good budgeting tool. It uses a lot of the billing codes that you see as part of UTBMS to help set those cost structures for you, and you can work that through. It might be more than family law needs, but it's really good for corporate clients.
Wonderful. Thank you. Oh, Digitory Law?
Digitory Legal.
Sorry, legal. Mm-hmm. It's the other L word. Thanks, Joshua. Is there anyone else who would like, right over here, right over here. You're getting your steps in today, Jessica. We all are.
Hello, my name is Catherine Henry. I'm the firm administrator for the law office of John B. Henry III in Houston, Texas, and Rockwall, Texas. I had an answer for the email bulk solution. So we get a lot of emails, and it was one of the things that I was seeing that missed opportunity in billing. So Clio now offers it with an integration with Outlook.
Yes.
And then there's also Faster Law. That's what we were previously using. And it gives you an opportunity to capture all of your billing, and it will pick up Clio numbers and matter information. And you can literally sit there, and if you're on really good Wi-Fi and have a really good up-to-date system, you can do like enormous amounts of batch billing and get it applied and see it in your bill. And of course, when you use these systems, it's not the way you reconcile it is that you're looking at the communications log, and you compare that to your billing activity to see if the billing entry is there. So that's a solution to be able to get those emails.
Wonderful.
In the books.
Thank you so much. Would anyone else like to? No? Oh, right in the back. I think we got time for one more in the back there. Wonderful.
I got it.
Oh, thanks, Joshua.
Okay, so my name is Ife He with the law office Ife He. We do immigration for the most part in New York City. And what we were talking about is the fact that a lot of times, clients expect you to respond right away. And when you respond right away, whether it be through email or phone call or any other forms of communication, it gives them the expectation you're always available.
Yes. Yep.
So And,
Yes.
and so a better way is to just sort of segment your time and maybe schedule your emails or set a time for sending your emails in the morning or in the morning, because then clients think you're prioritizing their matters, even though you might have drafted the email at nighttime. And I'll give you an example of what happened to me is the day before, like Monday, a client, because I do immigration, so a client had a biometrics appointment, so they had to get fingerprinted on Tuesday, and I thought they had their own notice, but they didn't, so they wanted to come to my office on Monday when I was here to get a notice so they can go for their biometrics.
Right.
But I wasn't there, and I got that text message from the client in the morning as I was boarding my flight to come here. But then I didn't respond to the client right away. I responded to the client at 4 p.m. and I told them my office is going to close at 5. And they're welcome to come to my office, and they actually came to my office. So there's a sense of urgency on the side of the client, and you don't have to worry that you got to respect your own boundaries too sometimes. So
Yes, absolutely. And that's how you maintain or even achieve that work-life balance. And it's definitely a good point that if you respond right away, they'll know. No matter if you're responding in the evening, they'll just expect that they can message you or that you will respond anytime. And it's always important to remember that for the client, you are their only person. And they sometimes don't realize that you have many people. And so, yeah, I love that idea of scheduling those replies, setting those boundaries. It's fantastic. All right, so that was wonderful, everybody. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for coming together, for discussing, for working together, brainstorming. This is really wonderful kind of workshop, and I'm very happy that we're all able to do this today. I do have, a quick summary of findings, but I'm going to just leave you with a few tools that are really kind of available to help you find balance and kind of help you really address some of those pain points. So within Clio, obviously, there's Clio Grow, Clio Payments. We've got, Client Portal. That's the one. Sorry, it's been a long day. Client Portal. We've got a lot of really great integration partners. If you want to go down to the exhibit hall, they're all there. They're all there to help you and to help streamline your processes and really help you kind of, again, find that work-life balance. And then we also have, for your home or office, okay? So thinking about where you're working, how you're working, what your hours are, kind of really taking a look at how and where you work is also going to be something will be really helpful to finding that work-life balance and hopefully getting more vacation time. So thank you so much, everybody. We've also have on the tables, there is the client-centered workbook for you. So that kind of is a expanded workbook that you can use to, again, work through some of these pain points, identifying pain points, formulating your experiments. And in the slides, you can also get the first chapter of Jack Newton, our CEO's book, The Client-Centered Law Firm, which I highly recommend. It's a very interesting, easy read. Lots of really good, actionable, practical information in there. And again, Client Journey Workbook, and that's all we have time for. So thank you so much, everybody. I'm Rio Peterson, and this has been wonderful.